A mechanic walked into a high-tech lab, packed with glowing gadgets and machines that he had never seen before. In the middle of the room, two doctors stood around a giant bubble filled with water. Inside the bubble was something strange, a creature unlike anything the mechanic had ever seen. One doctor disconnected a long tube from the bubble, while the other carefully cut it open. In an instant, water came crashing out, flooding the floor. The mechanic froze in shock. The doctors quickly put an oxygen mask on the creature. One of them smiled and said, "Welcome to the world." At the start of the story, two people are in a boat in the middle of the ocean. Just as the man holds the woman's hand, three creepy-looking figures drag him into the water. Suddenly, Lincoln's 6 Echo wakes up with a jolt. It was just a nightmare. As he wakes, a glowing LED display above his bed flashes a cheerful "Good morning." Another display on the wall reminds him to head to the Tranquility Center for a checkup. As Lincoln goes to the bathroom, the toilet analyzes his urine and warns him about his high sodium levels, suggesting he needs to watch his diet. Lincoln wears a special bracelet that opens a drawer filled with his identical white outfit. When he steps outside his room, he despises the fact that everyone else around him is also dressed in white. Lincoln joins the others as they walk together into an elevator. As it descends, holograms on the walls show a breathtaking island surrounded by clear blue water. Everyone is told that the outside world is contaminated, except for this island, which is a safe haven. Each week, one person is chosen to leave the compound and live there through a lottery. This week's winner is announced, Starkweather 2 Delta. A happy image of him appears, showing how thrilled he is to be going to the island, his lifelong dream. As Lincoln walks through the compound, he sees others working out, swimming, and doing yoga, all while being watched by supervisors dressed in black. Even though everything seems peaceful, the people's lives are very controlled. At the cafeteria, Lincoln tries to order bacon, but the nutritionist warns him against it for health reasons. His friend Jordan 2 Delta cleverly tricks the nutritionist and sneaks some bacon onto Lincoln's plate. The two chat for a while, but a guard quickly reminds them about the no-touching rule, and they part ways. Later, Lincoln visits Dr. Merrick, the head doctor of the compound. Merrick questions him about his friendship with Jordan and the nightmare he had. Lincoln admits that he's starting to wonder about life in the compound. Why do they only get tofu on Tuesdays? Why is everyone forced to wear the same clothes? And why can't he have bacon if he wants it? Dr. Merrick calmly explains that the outside world is contaminated, and they're lucky to be safe in the compound. He also mentions that the staff, including himself, are not allowed to go to the island. Dr. Merrick then runs some tests on Lincoln, attaching tiny devices to his face that crawl into his eye. He assures Lincoln that they'll just collect data for 24 hours before leaving his body naturally. Lincoln goes to his job, where he and another worker, Jones 3 Echo, are feeding nutrients into tubes for meal preparation. Lincoln is bored, but Jones enjoys the work. Suddenly, a pregnant woman named Lima 1 Alpha collapses. Everyone is excited because this means she'll be going to the island with her baby. Later, Lincoln sneaks into a basement where his friend, a technician named James McCord, works. There, Lincoln discovers a live moth, a sign that the outside world might not be as toxic as they've been told. He hides the insect in a matchbox. That evening, Lincoln tells Jordan about the moth, hinting that something isn't right. Jordan is not convinced by his words, but Lincoln can't shake the feeling that they're being lied to. Soon, the lottery begins again, and Jordan's name is drawn. She's in shock, while Lincoln is devastated that his best friend will be leaving. When he touches her arm to say goodbye, a guard quickly separates them for breaking the no-contact rule. That night, Lincoln has the same disturbing dream again. He wakes up with a new plan. He releases the moth he found and follows it through the compound until he sneaks into a medical area. Disguised in a lab coat, Lincoln watches as Lima 1 Alpha gives birth. But to his horror, the doctor injects her with something that causes her to die right after delivering the baby. The nurse takes the newborn into another room and hands the baby to a couple, where the woman looks exactly like Lima 1 Alpha. Lincoln is shocked. He sneaks further into the hospital and sees Starkweather 2 Delta on an operating table. As the doctors prepare to cut him open, Starkweather suddenly wakes up and tries to escape. He's chased and shot by the guards, while Lincoln watches from hiding. Dr. Merrick realizes Lincoln has witnessed everything and sounds the alarm to capture him. Lincoln rushes to warn Jordan, telling her that there is no island. It's all a lie, and the winners are being killed for their organs. At first, she doesn't believe him, but Lincoln convinces her, and they run for their lives. Chased by guards, Lincoln and Jordan escape through underground tunnels and eventually emerge into the outside world. To their surprise, they can breathe the air just fine, and the land, although rocky, isn't contaminated. As they spot a living snake, they realize the truth. The world outside is not toxic, and the island was nothing but a cruel lie. Back at the compound, the community announcer spreads fake news, telling everyone that Lincoln has been quarantined because of contamination exposure, and Jordan has safely made it to the island. But in reality, a dark truth unfolds elsewhere. Dr. Merrick is giving a sales pitch to some rich clients, and it's here that the truth about the compound is finally revealed. The facility isn't a place of safety. It's a bioengineering lab where human clones, called agnates, are grown. These agnates are exact copies of real people, created to be used for spare body parts when their sponsors, the original people they were cloned from, need them. Dr. Merrick lies to the clients, claiming that these clones are kept in a vegetative state, basically unconscious, unable to feel anything. He insists they're just products, not real humans. But the reality is far different. These clones are conscious, thinking, feeling beings. After the presentation, Dr. Merrick hires a ruthless mercenary named Albert Laron to hunt down Lincoln and Jordan, who have escaped the compound. Merrick is desperate because if the world finds out that the clones are actually alive, the facility would be shut down, and the whole operation would be ruined. Merrick especially wants Jordan back because her sponsor, Sarah Jordan, is in a coma and needs multiple organ transplants to survive. Jordan's lottery win means her organs were about to be harvested to save her sponsor's life. Meanwhile, Lincoln and Jordan make it to a bar where they meet up with McCord, the technician who secretly helped them escape earlier. He takes them to his house and reveals the shocking truth that they are human clones, that all their memories, their pasts, and even their identities are fake, implanted to make them think they had a life before the compound. McCord explains that their names, Lincoln and Jordan, come from their sponsors. The Echo and Delta in their names show how long they've been alive as clones. Lincoln has been around for 3 years, while Jordan has been alive for 4. Lincoln and Jordan realize they have to expose the truth about the Institute and free the other clones. McCord gives them some money, maps, and one key piece of advice: to never trust anyone. Unfortunately, the bad guys are closing in on them. Laron and his team track them down through sensors implanted in Lincoln's body, and McCord is killed in the process. But Lincoln and Jordan barely manage to escape, catching a train to Los Angeles to find Lincoln's sponsor, Tom Lincoln. Lincoln and Jordan finally arrive in the city, where they see a huge billboard showing a picture of a sports person, who turns out to be the owner of Starkweather 2 Delta. As they explore the city for the first time, Jordan spots an advertising screen, and to her shock, she sees her original self as a model on display. Meanwhile, Laron and his team are on the hunt for the missing agnates. They find them through CCTV footage and rush to capture them. However, the police arrive first and arrest Lincoln and Jordan because they use McCord's credit card, and the police think they're involved in McCord's death. When the police try to run their records, they find no data, no fingerprints, no retinal scans. But Lincoln quickly claims to be Tom Lincoln, and when the police check, they find Tom Lincoln's address, which is exactly what Lincoln and Jordan have been looking for. On the way to the station, Laron crashes into the police convoy with massive armored vehicles, destroying most of their cars. While Laron and the police clash, Lincoln and Jordan make a run for it. They find a moving truck and hide under some heavy equipment. As Laron's team closes in, Jordan loosens the straps, dropping metal tools onto the bad guys' cars. Lincoln helps, and together they wreck most of the chasers' vehicles. Laron backs off, planning his next move. The police come back, this time in a flying jet ski. Lincoln knocks the officer off and steals the jet ski, but since he's never flown anything, he crashes into a building. It's a massive wreck, but the couple barely escapes, saved by construction nets. After a tough journey, they arrive at Tom's mansion. Lincoln is able to unlock the door because his retinal scan matches Tom's, being his clone. When they finally meet, Tom is shocked to see Lincoln. It's like looking in a mirror. After some tense conversation, Tom admits he's been suffering from liver failure and that Lincoln was created as his insurance policy in case he needed organ transplants. Lincoln and Jordan beg for his help to expose the Institute, and Tom promises to take them to a news station to reveal the truth. But Tom Lincoln isn't as trustworthy as he seems. While pretending to go get his shoes, he secretly calls the Institute to report that his clone is in his house. Lincoln and Jordan get suspicious, especially when Jordan notices something off about Tom's behavior. They realize it's a trap just in time. As they try to escape in Tom's car, Laurent's team shows up and starts shooting. In the chaos, Lincoln gets into a fight with Tom. Both of them are thrown out of the car, and Laurent is confused because he can't tell which one is the real Tom. Lincoln cleverly switches his tracking bracelet onto Tom, and Laurent, thinking he's found the clone, shoots Tom dead. Lincoln and Jordan manage to flee back to Tom's estate. Meanwhile, back at the Institute, Dr. Merrick and his team have discovered that the newer generations of clones are starting to develop real memories and are questioning their existence. This is a big problem for Merrick, so he decides on a drastic solution: a mass recall. He plans to terminate half of the clones, pretending they're being sent to the island, while secretly killing them and disposing of the bodies. One of the chosen clones for this fake lottery is Jones 3 Echo, a worker Lincoln knows. Lincoln comes up with a daring plan to save all the agnates. He believes that if he can destroy the Institute's holographic control room, he can reveal the truth to the clones, that the island is a lie and they're all being used for their body parts. To pull this off, he disguises himself as Tom Lincoln and heads back to the Merrick Institute in a helicopter, while Jordan deliberately gets captured to infiltrate the facility. Together, they're going to take down the entire operation and free the clones once and for all. Laurent stared at the small, glowing implant under Jordan's wrist as she nervously touched it. They were both tense. When they arrived at the facility, Laurent met Dr. Merrick in his office. Dr. Merrick thanked Laurent for his help, but the situation was dire. Sarah Jordan, the woman Jordan was cloned from, might not survive even with the organ transplants. After everything he had seen, Laurent started to feel bad about how the clones were treated, especially after watching them fight so hard to stay alive. Meanwhile, Lincoln had escaped from his captors and was making his way to the holographic control room, where he hoped to expose the truth. Jordan was lying on a bed, waiting for the doctors to take her organs, but suddenly, she grabbed a gun and took down one of the guards. She found Lincoln and handed him a key she had secretly taken. At the same time, the doctors realized that the man they thought was Lincoln was actually his sponsor, Tom Lincoln, who was dead. They quickly alerted Dr. Merrick. Elsewhere, a group of clones had been chosen for a trip to the island, but it was all a lie. They were being led to be killed. Jordan noticed what was happening and decided to follow them. Lincoln found the reactor powering the hologram and tried to shut it down, but Dr. Merrick appeared and shot him, starting a brutal fight. As the clones were loaded into a small chamber, one named Jones started to suspect something was wrong. He tried to resist, but the doors locked, and the chamber turned into a giant oven. The guards activated the incinerator, but just in time, Jordan arrived. Laurent followed and forced the guards to shut it down. The clones were saved, gasping for air. Back in the reactor room, Dr. Merrick was choking Lincoln, trying to kill him. But Lincoln grabbed a gun and shot Merrick in the neck. The reactor went out of control, exploding and destroying everything in its path. With Merrick dead, the hologram disappeared, and all the clones could see the truth. The world outside was never contaminated. Shocked but free, the clones walked out of the building, seeing the real world for the first time. Lincoln and Jordan kissed as Laurent smiled, knowing they had finally won.